And now, wielding a red sword. Chapter 16. Revolt. In the morning things were ready. Mim and Ligeia and the snake emerged from the tent to find the Amazons in full combat dress. Each stood tall and proud with her bow and quiver of arrows, her left breast full and perfectly molded, her right breast absent. The right one was, of course, burned off in childhood, so that it never developed and thus could never interfere with the drawing of the bowstring. "But we have two problems," Diana, the Amazon leader, said. "First, we lack efficient means of travel. Only the demons can use the front routes, and the back routes, as you know, are slow and treacherous. Since it is necessary for you to be at all the key sites—" "What is the second problem?" Mim asked. "There is a demon spy among us." "Don't hurt the snake," Ligeia exclaimed. "It has done us no harm." "Except to report of your whereabouts every night," Diana said. "We knew its mission," Mim said. "We saw to it that it did not know our actual plan. Still, now that plan must be revealed, and surprise is of the essence. That demon must be abolished." "It's not a demon, it's a snake," Ligeia protested. "The soul of an animal." "How do you know?" "It got cold. A demon would not have been affected." Mim glanced at the snake, startled. It was true. Demons had no vulnerability to extremes of temperature, as they had to function in all the climes that made souls suffer. Yet, that being the case— "It must still be a spy," Diana said. "We must hack it to pieces so that it cannot report on our activity." "But you can't kill a soul," Mim said. "But we can do the equivalent," she said. "When we do to it what would be the killing of a mortal, it becomes non-functional for a day, just as the demons do. That is all the time we need." "But we can't even be sure it is a spy," Ligeia said. "It's just a snake Satan used to gag me, and then it stayed with us. Maybe it had no choice." "I can settle this," Mim said. "I will phase into it." He approached the snake and put his hand on its body. The snake did not try to avoid him. In a moment he knew two things, and one of them astonished him. The snake was a spy for Satan, and the snake did not want to be. It had spied because it knew that Satan would have put it into perpetual torture if it did not cooperate. So it had reported each night to a demon who came to meet it. But it wished there were some other choice. When Ligeia had warned it, it had been grateful to her, for no other creature had shown it such consideration during its life or its afterlife. But it had had no way to escape its assignment. "But now you have a way," Mim thought to it. "Join the revolt." The snake was amazed. "You would have me?" "The revolt is open to anyone or anything who shares its precepts." "Then I join it." "Will other animals join it?" Mim inquired. "If they knew they would be accepted and rewarded as the human souls are." Mim disengaged. "The snake will join us if we will accept it. Other animals may do the same. Do you see what this means?" "The animals will join us?" Diana asked incredulously. "Even the hellhounds?" "We can but inquire," Mim said. "It is a risk of betrayal, but if successful—" "You are the leader, Mars," Diana said. "If you are ready to take that risk—" "I believe I am. I believe the snake speaks for its kind and perhaps for others. If we offer them the same terms—" Diana shrugged. "Then we shall not protest." Mim phased into the snake again. He thought the terms to it. "Bring those animals who accept this here," he concluded. The snake slithered away. "Now we wait," Mim said. It was a painful process, waiting until the animals responded, but the benefit could be critical. Hours passed. Then 2 hellhounds bounded toward the camp. The Amazons raised their bows, arrows knocked. Hellhounds were hard to put out of business because they were so large and tough, but arrows through the eyes and paws could do it. The hellhounds slowed and paused, then walked slowly on toward the group, tracked by the arrowheads. When they reached the center, Mim approached. He touched one and phased in. The animals were willing. They hated hell as much as the human souls did. Most animals retired at death to their own afterlives, but some few were caught up in the human system, particularly those who had been pets or associates of man. They wanted to be free of it just as much as the human souls did. Then we shall include you in the reckoning, on the same basis as the human souls, Mim thought to it. I, the human incarnation of war, pledge this. I, the representative of the animals, accept this, the hellhound thought back. How may we serve you? We require transportation. We can provide it. So the pact was made. The two hellhounds loped away. In an hour, two wild horses galloped in, their dark manes flung out and their nostrils snorted steam. They were killer equines, damned for killing men, but for this they were tame. Ligeia, being a princess, knew how to ride well. She and Mim mounted. "You know what to do," Mim called to Diana as they rode away. The horses galloped to the nearest ford and crossed the Acheron. People afoot would not have been able to do it because of the foulness of the water, but these horses were toughened to it. Then they carried Mim and Ligeia to the checkpoint of their region of hell. This was simply a guard station at the intersection of several paved roads. A demon guard stood there, holding a flamethrower. It was obvious that any soul who tried to pass this point would get burned. Spiked fences extended from the checkpoint away across the terrain, and Mim knew that those would not be subject to passing either. Hell surely had ways to make a fence tight. The only interruption of such a fence would be a river, which explained how the canoe had gotten them through. They rode up on the wild horses and dismounted. The demon's gaze followed them, and its flamethrower was ready. Mim took a step toward the checkpoint, then seemed to hesitate. "I don't think we can go this way," he said to Ligeia. "Oh, and I did so want to be alone with you," she said, speaking the line they had rehearsed. They started to turn away. "Halt!" the demon cried. They paused. The thing had taken the bait. "Oh, don't let that demon get me!" Ligeia cried. "Where were you going?" the demon demanded. Ligeia turned, evincing a fright that was not wholly feigned. "I just... nowhere," she said, trembling. The demon's red eyes glowed more brightly as he surveyed her body. Drool dribbled from a tusk. Demons might be incapable of such human emotions as love, but they could compass lust, and Ligeia's figure incited that. "You can be alone with me, wench, and I don't care who watches." "No!" she cried. The demon aimed the flamethrower. "Come here, wench, or fry." Reluctantly, Ligeia approached the demon. Then, just as it was about to grab her, she screamed. The demon dropped like a clod of manure. Mim hurried in and hauled it out of the box. Then he took the flamethrower and fired it, playing the flame over the demon's body. Foul smoke went up as the body burned and vaporized. In a moment, nothing was left. Mim waved his arm in a signal across the field. Immediately the hidden Amazons rose up, running toward the checkpoint. A demon was coming down the road, evidently off duty from some mission of malice. "Hey, get back to work, you sluts!" it cried, but the Amazon charged right at it and in a moment had overwhelmed it and hacked it to pieces. The revolt was on. Diana arrived at the checkpoint. "Take over," Mim told her, presenting the flamethrower. "No demon shall pass, Mars," she said, thumping her chest on the flat right side with her fist. "We'll mop up those remaining in this sector, never fear." They led the wild horses through, and Mim and Ligeia remounted on the other side of the checkpoint. They galloped toward the next one. Mim was pleased. This first mission had gone smoothly, and the upper echelon of hell had not been warned. If they could take out the other four as readily, the revolt would succeed before Satan even knew it was in progress. For it was no secret exit from hell that Mim had sought. He knew there was none. He had acquainted the leaders of the major sections with his plan for an organized rebellion occurring virtually simultaneously in several regions, so that the demonic forces would be unable to concentrate on any one. There were 1,000 damned souls for every demon, and only the tight organization and repressive tactics of the demons kept the souls cowed. As long as the major sections of hell were sealed off from each other, no revolt could succeed. because the demons would wipe it out by concentrating their force. The other sections would be unable to assist, if they even knew what was going on. Then, of course, there would be a brutal extra ration of torture for all those who had participated in the uprising. The thing about torture in hell was that there was no necessary end to it. What would cause a mortal to die in agony merely caused the agony here. Those who did the equivalent of dying woke again the following day for a resumption of the torture, and the demons were adept at easing up just shy of that momentary relief, so that there was no period of unconsciousness. No, it really wasn't worth it, making trouble in hell. Of course, they could not come at the next checkpoint from the central road. The demons would know immediately that two souls mounted on wild horses did not belong there. They had to cross at the rear and approach from inside. This checkpoint had merely gotten them into the region of fire. It had not given them freedom of hell's highways. But since they did not have to follow the devious river channel, they did gain time. The wild horses, out of their territory, were not familiar with this region, but Ligeia had enough of a notion of it to guide them. They skirted the worst of the blazes and found the camp of the damned souls of this region. "It's on," Mim called as they galloped through. "Prepare the ambush. The Amazons are in control of their sector." There was immediately activity in the camp as the souls moved out. They would remain hidden until Mim and Ligeia did their job, as would the Amazons. In due course they emerged from a region of smoldering grass to come in sight of the checkpoint. Here the demon had a fire hose, for a flamethrower would hardly stop those who were acclimatized to fire. The water that the hose would squirt was poisonous and would cause any flesh it touched to die and rot. This was just as effective in its fashion as the flamethrower at the other site. At this station there were two female demons. The vulnerable girl ploy would not work here. Demonesses were no less lustful than the males, but their tastes differed. So for this one Mim made himself invisible and walked up alone. He carried a sharp knife that the Amazons had given him, fashioned from a fragment of bone. Again he wondered how there could be bones where there was no mortal flesh and no true dying. He could only conjecture that hell was stocked with all manner of repulsive things, including bones. His foot struck a pebble, and the nearer demoness looked up. She opened her mouth, but Mim leaped at her and cut her throat before she could speak. Mistake. The slash drew no blood. The mouth screamed warning to the other. Mim hacked away at the rest of the neck, severing the head more readily than he would a human head, for demons possessed no bones. But the severed head continued to scream, even as it rolled on the ground, and the arms flailed at him. The other demoness caught up the water hose and turned on the water. She swept it in an arc to catch whatever was there. The blast of it caught Mim dead center and knocked him back. But he retained his invisibility. Because he was an incarnation, he was immune to the poison. He grabbed the decapitated demoness, used her as a shield, and advanced on the other. Demons were not noted for spooking, but this sight of her beheaded companion advancing purposefully on her caused this one to stare. Then she dived for the alarm signal to summon help. Mim let the headless one go and flung himself on the other. She could not see him, but now she could feel him, and she fought savagely, scratching at him with her claws and biting at him with her teeth. Tusks were just as dangerous on a female as on a male, but his cloak protected him from injury. He got her down and held her there. "Firefolk," he yelled, "here to me!" In a moment the damned souls closed in and quickly tore apart both the whole and the partial demoness. Another sector had been liberated. They mounted the wild steeds again and headed for the next. So far there was no general alarm in hell, but that last had been close. They proceeded to the next checkpoint. This one had a male and a female demon. Mim and Ligeia approached them together, but before they got close enough to act, the male did a double take. "Hey, didn't I see you at the mesa?" it demanded. "You were—" Mim charged. He managed to take out the male, but not before the female had struck the alarm button. Then Mim dispatched her, and the damned souls took over the checkpoint. But the damage had been done. The alarm had been sounded, and now the demons would be alert. 3 sectors in rebel hands were not enough. They needed 5, by Mim's judgment. 5 would stretch the demon forces out thin enough to resist. 4 was doubtful, and 3 insufficient. "But maybe if we strike we're unexpected," Mim said. They entered the sector of perpetual snows. The demons knew they would try for its opposite checkpoint next, therefore they planned to go for the one by the region of forgetfulness instead. To do this they had to cross the Acheron, the river of sorrows. The fence went right up to the bank and down into the river, and the horses balked at entering the water. There was no shallow ford here. The fluid was deep and ugly. Mim was sure there would be much sorrow to the horses if they ventured there. The various boundaries of hell were effective, but there had to be a way to cross. After all, the river was not that broad. They tracked down the stream and found a region where the water coursed shallowly past a series of projecting stones. The horses stepped across these, practicing inhuman balance, and reached the farther shore. Then they followed it up past the region of the fence and discovered that it was an island. They had not yet crossed the river of sorrows. They walked along the island, trying to find a way to cross the rest. They came upon an old, deserted building. It had a steeple with a cross on it. "A church!" Ligeia exclaimed, astonished. "What is that doing in hell?" Mim, of course, was not a Christian. "I suppose artifacts of any type can be here. If a church happened to be, what do you call it, excommunicated?" "I suppose so," she said doubtfully. She opened the door and went in, and Mim followed, curious about this anomaly. Inside it seemed empty, but Mim's sensitivity to minds alerted him. "Something is here," he said. Ligeia passed along the central aisle, feeling the air above the pews with her hands. "Yes, there is something ghost-like, some presence." "Ghosts? In hell?" He touched a region she had indicated and felt it. "No, not exactly. These are mere thoughts. Instead of people or spirits, there are only thoughts here, 1 thought per person." "Each thought in lieu of a person," Ligeia repeated. "I wonder why. And why do they stay here alone and quiet?" Mim phased in to a thought. It was of suicide. "I think these are people who committed suicide," he said. "They aren't quite damned, but heaven doesn't really favor them, so they are here, in limbo." "But I committed," she said, "and you were damned for your other crimes, killing the other people in the airplane, rightly or wrongly. Otherwise you might have found yourself here." She nodded, agreeing. "It really isn't a bad place. Or a bad situation, being a thought." "But we can't stay," he reminded her. "We have other business." "Yes." Almost reluctantly, she followed him out of the church. They found a fallen tree that spanned the stream. The horses walked up it, employing their uncommon balance, and jumped down at the other shore. They were across the river and through the fence, too. "The suicides," Ligeia murmured as they rode away, "in a church on an island in the river of sorrows. I suppose that's fitting somehow." "If they had reason to do it, it doesn't seem right to send them to everlasting torture," Mim agreed. She seemed satisfied with that, but remained pensive as they rode on. Now they were in the region of forgetfulness, bounded on the other side by the river Lethe. The demons at the checkpoint, true to form for this region, had forgotten to be watchful, and Mim took them out without trouble. The damned souls of this region took over the checkpoint. 4 down, 1 to go. This one was in the frozen region, bounded by the river of lamentation, Cocytus. They had no trouble crossing its ice, but they knew they would not have the advantage of surprise this time. "If we make this one, we shall be successful," Mim said. "If not—" "I love you, Mim," Ligeia said. "If I never get out of hell, I will still be better for that." "I will not leave you in hell," he said. They leaned over, each riding a wild horse, and kissed. The final checkpoint was indeed expecting them. Demons were ranged along the fence on either side of it, standing in the snow, each bearing a flamethrower. They drew up at a distance, concealed by snow-covered trees, and considered. "No way we can get there unchallenged," Mim said. "If I approached invisibly, my footprints would show in the snow. In any event, I couldn't overcome several hundred demons. Snowbeard, the leader of the snow movers, approached. "You have the other 4 regions secure?" "True," Mim agreed, "but without this one I doubt the revolt can be successful." "But we're committed anyway now," the man said. "All the souls in the other sections will be tortured after the demons crush them one by one, and us too, so we might as well go for broke." "What are you thinking of?" Mim asked. "Charging them outright. I know it's crude, but we do outnumber them, and—" "That checkpoint is protected," Mim said. "You might eliminate every other demon, but you couldn't get close to that one, and you wouldn't have the checkpoint. You would be throwing away your lives for this day without hope of success, and adding to the torture to be heaped upon you in the following days. I would not ask you to do that. But if you made yourself invisible and took out that checkpoint while we distracted the demons by our charge—" Mim looked at him appreciatively. "When you made your commitment to this effort, you really meant it," he said. "We all did," Snowbeard agreed. "Then make your charge," Mim said. "I will go in invisibly, and when I have taken out the key demon I will manifest and let you know." "Right, Mars." They shook hands. The damned souls charged in a mass. The demons waited for them, then fired their flamethrowers when the men came within range. There were screams of anguish as the men were set on fire, but those behind passed by the scorching bodies and continued the charge. These, too, were tagged with the flame, but the third rank continued. As each rank fell, the next surged closer. Though the carnage was horrible, soon the remaining men were grappling with the demons, and the flamethrowers were no longer effective. "If I could have had an army like that when I was a mortal prince," Mim murmured. But he had a job to do. He turned invisible and ran across the scuffled, partly melted snow toward the checkpoint. His footsteps did not show now, for the snow was no longer clean. He reached the checkpoint. This was in an elevated tower, more formidable than the others, for this was a major intersection. The main reinforcements of the tyranny of hell would be passing through this point. Flamethrowers, hoses, and pellet guns were mounted at its embrasures, capable of wiping out any attack on the tower itself and of preventing any soul from passing below. But Mim was invisible, and protected by his cloak of war. He approached the tower, unobserved amidst the tumult, and took hold of its nether struts and hauled himself up. Soon he was climbing over the battlement. A solitary demon was there, holding a gleaming trident. Though Mim was invisible, the demon had a disturbing focus and seemed to be looking right at him. "So we meet again, Mars," the demon said. "I admit I underestimated you, but I shall settle this now." That was no demon. That was Satan himself. Satan advanced on him, the 3-pronged spear ready. "Your little devices are useless against me, naturally," he said. "I knew you would be turning up here in due course. I cannot actually slay you, but I can put you out of commission long enough to enable my minions to put down this insubordination you have provoked against me. After that you might as well depart these my demesnes, for you will never have another opportunity to make mischief here." Mim knew he was in trouble. He was facing the Lord of Evil in hell, weaponless. The fate of his program depended on him, but how could he overcome another incarnation on that incarnation's own turf? He dispensed with the invisibility, as it was of no further use. Then he bit his tongue. "Ah, you desire blood?" Satan inquired. "Perhaps I can accommodate you." He thrust the spear viciously at Mim's body. Mim dodged aside, and the thrust missed him. He knew that Satan had intended it to miss. Like the figure of evil he was, he preferred to play with his prey before destroying it. But the blood was in Mim's mouth, and his berserker rage was coming upon him. No mortal man could match the reflexes and power of a berserker. The fact that Mim's rage was controlled did not change that. "Isn't that quaint?" Satan said. "He berserks. Perhaps this will be at least minimally entertaining." He thrust with the spear again, and Mim dodged aside again, but the miss was narrow. Perhaps he will even be able to avoid getting stuck for a few more seconds. Satan was baiting him, but Mim was immune to that sort of thing. While he waited for the berserk rage to be complete, he surveyed the surroundings. There was a rack of weapons at one side of the open chamber, and among these was a sword. Satan thrust again, and Mim moved again, but this time with the blinding speed that only his type could manage. He leaped past Satan and to the weapons rack. He took up the sword and whirled to attack. All this was so fast that an ordinary person would have seen nothing more than a blur before the sword lopped off his head. But Satan smoothly countered the sword with the shaft of his trident, and sparks spun out from the contact. "Little slow, aren't you, Mars?" he inquired. Then he stabbed again with the points. When Mim used the blade of the sword to block it, there was another spray of sparks, and the blade was melted. Satan's weapon was enchanted, of course, and the ordinary ones were not. "Too bad," Satan said with mock sympathy. "That would not have happened with your red sword." Of course it wouldn't have happened. The sword of war was invulnerable and irresistible. Mim now appreciated how cunningly Satan had schemed to divest him of it before bringing him into hell. Had Mim come armed with it, he could have used it to cut apart any entity of hell, including Satan himself. Mim also would not have had to sneak through the back route to travel about hell. He could have used the sword to convey him to the checkpoint directly. But Gaia had warned him that Satan would not meet him in a neutral arena. Satan had arranged to strip him of much of his power and lure him into hell, and he had been fool enough to permit it. Mim leaped to the embrasure where the flamethrower was emplaced. He whipped it about to bear on Satan and fired. The flame bathed Satan completely, sending up murky royals of smoke. But Satan only stood there and laughed, unaffected, though the wooden wall beyond him caught fire and burned vigorously. "Do you expect me to be damaged by fire, Mars? I am the ruler of the fiery realm." The trident was similarly unaffected. From the voluminous flame it poked out, forcing Mim to jump away. He circled, and Satan stalked him. Mim realized that the battle outside had abated. The damned souls and the remaining demons were now watching the combat in the tower, and what was he accomplishing? Nothing except his own humiliation. "Well, I mustn't disappoint my fans," Satan said. "This is, after all, my show," and Mim knew that the next thrust of the spear would be for business. Too bad he couldn't phase in with Satan, the way he could with other creatures, and put a defeatist thought in his head. But of course Satan could not be fooled by anything like that. What other recourse was available to him? He was on the verge of defeat, and Satan knew it. In this moment he remembered 5 rings. The book had faded from his consciousness during the excitement of his experience in hell, and that had perhaps been unfortunate. As Musashi had warned, it was easy to stray from the way. What did the way of the sword have to tell him now? Cut your opponent as he cuts you. To strike as the enemy struck, defeating him even as he thought the victory was his, even as Satan thought at this moment. To abandon one's own life, to throw away fear, that was necessary for the final confrontation. To treat one's enemy not as a thing apart, but as an honored guest. Then Mim recognized his opportunity. He could defeat Satan after all. Satan thrust. Mim did not attempt to move. He phased out to insubstantiality, letting the prongs pass through his body harmlessly. "Satan, your weapon cannot harm me any more than these others can harm you," Mim said. "Ah, so he catches on to an aspect of his power," Satan said. "But he cannot displace me here while he remains insubstantial, and therefore this tower remains in my hands." "For the moment," Mim said, "until we meet bare-handed." Satan threw aside the trident. "You are not in your bailiwick, Mars, but in mine. You cannot overcome me bare-handed." He spread his arms in a grappling motion, smiling. "I had understood you to be more perceptive," Mim said. "I am not going to grapple with you, Satan. I am going to phase in with you." "A foolish ploy. You cannot govern my mind. I will remain in control while you dance about in futile vacuity. The victory is mine, Mars, when you but have the wit to perceive it." "And when I phase in with you, I will instantly know all your secrets," Mim said. "All the bypaths of hell, all your private techniques, all your embarrassments, all your bluffs. You cannot stop me from knowing all that is in your mind. Then, when I disengage, which you also cannot prevent, I shall advertise that information in whatever manner pleases me." He smiled. "Now, with that understanding, shall we grapple, Satan? Shall we become one, honored enemy?" Satan stared at him. "You have been reading that book." "It is a good book, Satan. It advises me that proper understanding is much the same as power. Let me understand you, so that there is no further misunderstanding between us." Satan literally ground his teeth. Mim advanced, Satan retreated. Mim leaped, and Satan vanished. Mim had used the one weapon he retained that Satan feared: information. Satan could not tolerate the truth being known, any kind of truth, even in hell. Especially not in hell, for Satan was the father of lies, and upon lies he had built his realm. The exposure of those lies would result in the inevitable destruction of that nether kingdom. The only way Satan could preserve his lies was to refuse contact with Mim, which he could not do if he remained here, for Mim would stalk him until he could not avoid contact. Mim walked to the battlement. "The tower is ours," he cried. "Satan is gone." A cheer went up from the damned souls. The demons fled. It was victory. The damned souls poured out through the checkpoint, and now the souls in charge of the other checkpoints came to join them. Amazons and muckrakers, snow haulers and fireworkers generated a massive celebration. But soon they sobered. "You know," Diana said, "we aren't out of hell. We just have a less restricted region of it." "You knew there was no escape from hell by violence," Mim reminded her. "But now we have the leverage to bargain, and that was the real object." "That's right," Snowbeard exclaimed. "I near forgot. The hearing panel." A single demon approached, walking toward them along the highway. "That will be the negotiator," Mim said. The demon came up to Mim. It turned out to be a demoness. "Lila," Mim exclaimed, recognizing her. "Satan proffers terms," she said. "We are reasonable," Mim said. "All we want is what was supposed to be. The hearings on borderline souls, so that they can be judged and reassigned as their merit deserves, beginning with Ligeia here." "Ligeia to be heard," Lila agreed, giving the woman a somewhat competitive look. "In return, you, Mars, shall vacate hell." "Not so fast," Mim protested. "There should be 1,000 souls heard each day until the backlog is caught up." 10 souls, Lila said. 100. 100, she agreed. "Satan shall institute a board." "No, the board shall be composed of souls in purgatory." She sighed. "And the remaining souls shall vacate the checkpoints and return to their labors." "And there shall be no reprisals." "And no reprisals." This seemed too easy. Where was the catch? "And I shall have free access to hell to verify that the terms are being honored." "But you shall not interfere further, having verified that," she said. Mim looked around. "That seems tight to me," he said. "When I come again I shall be bearing my red sword and riding my Palomino steed. I shall know with whom to talk. I cannot lighten your normal loads, but I can see that these terms are met." Because Satan would not give Mars any further pretext to make the kind of trouble that was the specialty of the incarnation of war. The others nodded. "We shall make nominations from our own groups," Snowbeard said, "and the animals shall have the same privilege. We shall report to you on any violations." Ligeia approached. "I suppose you have to go now," she said. Mim embraced her. "I believe I have freed you," he said. "You will go to heaven." "I think I would rather be with you, Mim." Mim sighed. And I would rather have you with me, Lee, but I shall not leave you in hell, and I cannot visit you in heaven. Accept your just reward. I will survive. Maybe I could go to purgatory and—" Mim kissed her. "I know you are destined for heaven. I would not interfere with that if I could." "I'm sure you wouldn't," she agreed. "Farewell, Mim." She retreated so that he could make his partings with the others. Mim kept a smile on his face, but now he felt dead inside. Of course he did not want to deny her heaven, but he wished her journey there could have somehow been delayed a decade or two. In the few days they had been acquainted, they had come to know each other about as well as two people could. And he knew she was the one for him. If only she hadn't died before he met her. Lila was watching him. "I am not going to heaven," she murmured. "The hell with you," he muttered. But he wondered, was this what he was to be left with? His recent victory over Satan did not seem very wonderful. Now,